All right, guys, welcome to another episode of the Bad Company podcast. Today we're going to be talking about, or it's going to be kind of like an overall recap of Levi, a little bit of mine experience with his challenge overcoming the MS Run the US segment 8, which he accomplished last week. Eight, right?
Yep, segment 8.
Yeah, so we're going to go through, and he's going to talk a lot about what he experienced, his challenges, everything along those lines. I think it fits in perfectly with what we're trying to do on this podcast. It's kind of like, I would say, in my mind, a marathon counts, but it doesn't count. It counts, but it sort of counts. But like, this is the first huge thing that I think one of us has just thrown ourselves into that really just fits the mold of the stuff we talk about.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I agree.
It makes me feel like when you sent me a text. Yeah, you sent me a text this week, where you're like, there's certain things that I feel like surface level, I feel like I'm crumbling and falling apart, but other things in the background are kind of going the way that we want them to go.
Yeah.
And Levi sent me a text. It was either this week or last week. And he was like, we're just making it happen this year because some dominoes are kind of falling in place. So it's been kind of cool to see how that's happening and then see how things are progressing forward. So it should be really interesting to hear Levi talk about his experiences this past week. But we'll kick it off first with the our daily, or I guess bi-weekly
bi-weekly reflection.
I'm gonna let you go first.
All right. The reflection has gone by. All right. So I got another Prefontaine quote.
This is the Nike guy. So, just in case, we have messed up the order of our podcasting because we had said that like, oh, welcome to episode 6. We're not sure if we want to release that episode 6.
Sure.
So we're adjusting. And then the last one we recorded, Levi talked about this guy. So just in case it's not before this, go ahead and explain who that is.
Yeah. So nevertheless, Steve Prefontaine, he's a legendary runner. I don't know. He's got a ton of records and stuff like that. And absolute legend. That's all I really know. I've seen the movie.
He was associated with Nike though, right?
Oh yeah, he was associated with Nike when Nike was created. I don't know any facts on him and Nike or whatever, but in the movie, it's they go hand in hand.
We should see if there's a book or something.
Yeah, I'm sure there is.
I feel like that would be really cool.
Yeah, I'm sure there is. Anyways, so during last week's journey, when I was on the mission of running 171 miles, my wife and Jordan got some of my friends and family to I don't know, just write me a message or whatever. And then what she did was put them on paper and print them out and then put them in this little folder. And then she gave it to me right before I started so that in the evenings when I was recovering, I could read some, or they'd be in the trunk. So even at a cruise stop or whatever, if I wanted to open some up, they were just words of encouragement from people that are close to me. And this one is from my brother Jake, and at the end of it, he put a Steve Prefontaine quote, and it's another really cool one, I think. So this is the quote: "A lot of people run to see who is the fastest. I run to see who has the most guts, who can punish himself into exhausting pace, and then at the end, punish himself even more." Steve Prefontaine. So reading that, especially over the week, really gave me some motivation, I think, just because it just felt like day after day I was punishing myself, and especially when it's prolonged throughout 7 days like that, it's incredible how motivating and how useful reminders like that are, or quotes like that, because you can go into it having all this energy and enthusiasm, But then like 4 or 5 days in, I'm like, all the motivation feels like it's, the tank's empty.
You're in a pretty dark spot.
I'm in like a darker spot. Yeah. And then it's like you kind of forgetting like what you're doing in a sense, or like your purpose for it. So it was an encouraging quote to read. Yeah, I love it. I run to see who has the most guts, who can punish himself into exhausting pace, and at the end punish himself even more.
I think of Kobe.
Mm.
You seen that clip where he's just talking about off season? Like he's just finished his season and they're asking about off season and he's like, I'm gonna push myself to exhaustion. That's what he says.
Yeah, that was right after they lost NBA finals to the Celtics.
Yeah.
And then he came back and won the next 2 years, I think. But yeah, it was just like even just like the simple reminder of like that there's like animals like that out there, and it's just like, oh yeah, like this is the kind of guy I am. You know what I mean? Like, and so yeah, I don't know. It was just encouraging. Not much to say there. The quote kind of says everything for itself. But yeah, what's yours?
Sweet. I just been trying to. I don't think mine's too crazy today, but I've been trying to read and listen a little bit more to people talk, and then people have given me books over the years, and one of the ones I'm reading right now is I think it's Marcus Aurelius. Just kind of hard to understand, but along those lines, a lot of stuff I'm reading right now is not like current or listening to. It's like people talking, and one of the things I heard some guy say this past week. So it comes from George Bernard Shaw. He was an Irish, I think, playwright in like the early 1900s. And he said, the people who make it in this life are those who look around for the circumstances they want, and if they can't find them, they make them or they create them. And I don't know, that one just kind of hit home with me because since I moved here, I had a different job. I used to have a different job before I moved here. And then I had it for a year that I was here. I was just working in marketing, come from a graphic design background. And it just didn't look like what I wanted it. Like, when you can see it and you know what it looks like, what you want, right? So everything, you know what it looks like.
Mm-hmm.
And it just didn't look like the vision or like the route I wanted to go. And so it's kind of cool this past year, just to see everything, how it's like played out. I mean, I'm still working towards, my biggest thing, but even along those lines, like the decision to go the route that I've gone has been a pretty uncomfortable one, but it's been a complete 180. And I feel like for the first time probably ever, I'm trying to create those circumstances because I didn't see them where I was. So that's kind of like stepping way, way, way heavier into the fitness world and everything that comes with it. Like if I hadn't done that, would have never run with you.
Mm-hmm.
So there's so many, or like the people that I'm going to meet. There's just so many things that just never, that I think are in my vision, or I would like them to be in my vision, but would just never have happened unless I tried to create them, which was stepping out of my comfort zone a lot. But that one just in general spoke with me a lot. It kind of just stuck a little more than some of the other stuff has. Recently, but I like that. If you look around, you can't find the circumstances you want, you have to create them.
Yeah. I like it.
So that's mine for the week.
I like it.
All right, let's jump forward. So we're going to talk about Levi's completed segment for MS Run the US, which he has prepped for. It was 171 miles, and he finished last Friday.
Yes.
Which was, what day was that?
That was Friday.
May 26th? Okay, we don't know.
It was 6 days ago.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So why don't you kick us off? We've talked a good bit about kind of leading up to it. Why don't you talk about like the couple of days leading up to it, where your head was, and then we'll just kind of like run through each of the days.
Yeah. I'll kind of summarize some main points, but opportunity of a lifetime. It was so fun. Outside of the running, just kind of getting in the groove of like, you run, you recover, you eat, you go to bed, you wake up, you do it all again, for 7 days straight. And, just the conditions changing throughout the days. staying at different RV parks, different camping sites every night. Super fun. Going into it, so we drove up to Steamboat. Our friend Jordan dropped us off, and we stayed the night before my segment started. And I got to watch the segment runner before me finish. It was just like, it was awesome. A freaking bear like ran through the park right before she finished, which was just insane.
It was a brown bear too. It
Yeah.
was not a black bear.
Yeah. And yeah, so I don't know. It was cool to like do that and then like get dinner with the segment 7 runner, and like her husband and like some of their friends, their Airbnb they were staying at. And it was cool to like just connect with another relay runner, like,
Mhm.
personally. And then hear about, their kind of experience, right before I started and stuff. So, yeah, that was awesome. And then I was just like so amped up, dude. Steamboat is just like so beautiful. And so day one,
Can I ask you a question about leading up to it real quick?
yeah, ask me anything.
So did you feel like, I think I've told you, like, I dream about the Saturday before mine,
Yeah.
of going through Eisenhower Tunnel and just feeling like I'm here.
Uh-huh.
All that work that
Yeah.
got put in is finally like here, and
Yeah.
you kind of get to like, just like,
Yeah.
all the haze in the barn. And I know you've run marathons before, but I feel like this was much more than a marathon.
Mhm.
How did you feel knowing that you did your prep? Did you feel like you were prepared enough? Did you feel like confident? Did you feel nervous? Did you have any doubts? Like, what did you feel like? Because I know it was a lengthy prep.
Yeah.
So did you have like relief? Like, did you, like,
A lot of relief. Yeah. Definitely relief because it was like, well, here I am, like whatever's gonna happen is happening. Can't change anything now.
yeah,
But kind of to answer your question, all the above, because I felt very confident, very capable physically and mentally going into it. But at the same time, I'm going into the unknown because
yeah.
I've never done this before. I don't know. And like, there's a lot of climbing that I haven't done before. Weather can't really predict. And just like, even the training can't prepare you for how your body's going to respond running 28 miles 3 days in a row and then 26 miles 2 days after that. And like, you're running 26, at least a marathon every day. So it's like you don't replicate that in the training. You know what I mean? So there was like that unknown there. And then with like, yeah, just the elevation, climbing, the altitude. But I was like, you know what? Like, take it day by day. So
Good way to look at it.
yeah. So day one, Rabbit Ears Pass and Steamboat. So first 4 miles, beautiful along the river. And then after the first 4 miles, I see this huge hill, and I'm like, oh, here we go, baby. First hill of the day, first hill of the segment. That hill never ended. That hill never ended. It turns a corner, and then I'm just running up a mountain the rest of the day. So that was great. The weather was beautiful. I was extremely antsy and moving definitely way too quick. Definitely undisciplined in the ultra realm, I guess. Like, if the segment ended after the third day, like I would be sitting here like I absolutely smoked this thing. But so yeah, first day, 28 miles, all uphill. I legit was running between like 9 and 9.5 minute miles throughout the entire day.
Despite the outcome of that, that's still impressive.
I think, yeah, the road crew was impressed as well. And but I don't know. I had no reference of like what the runners for me, like paces and stuff like that. I'm just like I'm kind of cruising, like I'm not like trying to run as fast as I can, but I'm definitely moving.
That's looking not fast for you.
Right.
It
Yeah.
is kind of for me, but you're much faster. I think that's kind of like what, zone 3 for you, maybe.
Maybe for like the first 10 miles of it. Yeah. Because also take into account I've never ran more than a marathon, right? 26 miles. So I ran the most I've ever ran in my life, day one.
Mm-hmm.
I also have never climbed that much elevation in a single run. So I climbed and ran the furthest I ever have
Do you
in
know
my
how much
life.
that was? How much the elevation was? The
Of
gain?
the first day,
Uh-huh.
I think it was like close to 3,000.
Moab's more than that, isn't it?
I don't know.
No, it was a lot more.
Maybe you might be right. Yeah, you might be right. Nevertheless,
Still, yeah.
we're at
It's a lot.
altitude. Steamboat is like what 7,000 something.
You probably jumped to like 10?
Yeah,
10?
yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Jeez.
and anyways, just absolutely crushed it. I was so excited to like get going and just like start and having such a good time. And definitely went out too fast after that day. You know, I definitely felt like my body's not going to be super happy tomorrow. Knees are kind of sore and like whatever. So I rest. We get up day two, and then day two is kind of like same thing, I guess. I slowed it down for sure because I was sore, and I don't know, just like still having like so much fun, beautiful scenery, um, and just in the middle of, you know, hardly any cars around me, just in the middle of the highway.
Was this one of the days that you told me that it was just kind of like farmland? Did T run with you on this
Yes.
day?
Yeah, T ran 15 miles with me that day.
Nice.
Most she's ever ran. So it was really fun to have that with her and like experience that because it was beautiful. Always a stream of water right next to us. Um, at the end of that day, I felt like literally like the last 2 miles, I felt like some pinching in both my tendons.
Achilles tendons.
Yeah. And I've never had any issues with Achilles tendons before, but I felt it like the last 2 miles. Like, this is weird. And I was just like, I kind of like wrote it off as like, I'm fatigued.
Was it a little sharper?
Yeah.
Then yeah.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah. And I just wrote it off like, I'm literally finishing up the day. So I'm like, I'm just fatigued. Like,
Yeah.
And then the third day I woke up and as I was warming up, I was like, ugh, this doesn't feel good. Both Achilles tendons. I'm like, this doesn't feel good. But another 28 miles the third day. When I got running and stuff like that, I could feel it, but it didn't really affect me. Like, I don't know. It didn't really affect my pace the third day either. The pain never got to a point where I was like, oh, it's really painful, but it was just there the entire day.
Yeah.
And that day, so all three of these days we finished by noon. And we're just flying. It just felt like we're flying through this thing. And then, that was the day where everything changed, because the next day it snows overnight, and then now we're going into day 4, right? And day 4, I'm gonna have to climb even more than the first day, because we're going up Loveland Pass, and it snows overnight, just from like where we're at. And I wake up early in the morning, go to the bathroom, and I start walking to the bathroom, and I'm like, oh, this hurts really bad. And like my ankles are so stiff. It was like really troublesome for me to get to the bathroom and back because the bathroom, we're at a campsite, so the bathroom was like kind of far. Like 30, 40 yards or whatever. But I was like I was truly worried that morning. I was like, I can barely walk right now. Like, how am I supposed to run? And like, especially like today, this is the big day, So day 4 was a huge struggle for me, going into it because like we get started and I can't run for longer than like, I don't know, a minute at a time at the beginning. And then, so I'm running, walking, switching off. And then, about, I don't know, like 12 miles in, I can't run anymore at all. And I'm just like, okay, this next like 5 miles to the cruise stop, like I just have to walk. And so I'm like walking, and I hit about like 13 miles in or whatever, and I start limping, and then the limp starts getting worse and worse, and I'm getting a lot more pain in my left side, and it's going all the way up my calf. And I had some really low moments at this moment. because I was like, okay, it's okay to walk a little bit, but then I'm like, well, I don't know how much longer I can walk. And I had to stop a couple times, and I'm just like by myself in the middle of nowhere, and I'm like trying to like stretch out my calf a little bit just so I can continue walking. And then everything starts to like kind of dawn on me. I'm like, oh, like what's going on? Like this is
Yeah.
actually like pretty bad. And like I have a lot of miles to cover today and for the upcoming days too. And so this was the first time I was like, I don't know if I can finish today. And if I can't finish today, how am I going to finish this entire thing? Um, so I called my wife and like, I was just like, I don't know what to do. Like, and she was just like, just get over here. You know, it's like a couple more miles. And she starts walking toward me. And then she met me for like the last like 3/4 mile or whatever and like walks with me. And like the only relief I could get on my left side was like putting my foot into like dorsiflexion and like walking with my foot like
Just keeping it stiff.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then this is as we arrived to Loveland Pass. So it's like straight up for the next, 12 miles here on out. And the pass was closed. So meet up with the crew and they're like, it's closed. We don't know how long or whatever. We might have to call today short. And like, I'm kind of like, this sucks, but I'm also like, maybe today needs to be cut short anyway, because I don't know how much longer I can go. So I start rolling out and things like that. And after, I don't know, like 15 minutes of like massage, soft tissue stuff and like massage, I got some relief. And then the pass opens up and like minutes after the pass opens up, it just starts snowing like crazy. And like the wind starts picking up like crazy. And
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna make like when we put this podcast out,
mhm.
I'm gonna take some of those photos. Those are your coolest photos.
Yeah.
Like I've seen some of the ones you posted. That one is so sick.
Yeah.
It's so cool. It's incredible. Like the amount of snow you had.
Yeah. It's cool to look at in a picture for sure.
Yeah.
Not cool to be running in that uphill with, when you're very hindered. But anyway, so I got some like a lot of relief from like the rolling out and things like that. Pass opens up. And then yeah, dude, by the grace of God, I was like, all right, let's do it. And so start moving up the pass and semis are blowing by. I can barely see like 20 feet in front of me. I'm getting smacked in the face by like headwind and like just pellets of snow. And it's pretty intense, dude. And I'm working my way up. And Achilles tendons start giving me some trouble again, but I'm just like fighting through it. It's just a freaking fist fight up this thing, dude. And I'm going by like A Basin. I'm seeing people snowboarding down and stuff like that, and I'm just like, this is insane. And crew stops me, and they're like, hey, I think we got to call it because visibility is really bad, and they're just like worried for my safety. And I was like 3 miles from the top when I asked him, and I was locked in. So I was like, no, we're not stopping. We'll stop at the top.
At the top.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So because I didn't know, for all I honestly, for all I knew in that moment was like, this may be my last stretch of this entire thing. Like, so I was like, we finish at the top because it was kind of like going all in. Like, I was just like, this might be it for me. This might be my last day. I might not finish this, but I'm going to finish today. I'm going to get up level and pass. And like, if I can't run tomorrow, I can't run tomorrow. But like, we're getting to the top of this pass.
Yeah.
And like, that's going to be my victory for today. Tomorrow we'll figure it out, but I don't even care. So I take off. Geez, dude, that was it was the longest 3 miles of my life. But got to the top. And that was a huge win for me that day because I knew the next day you were going to be there. And I knew that we're going downhill, like net downhill for the rest of the 3 days basically after that.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, we'll see what happens tomorrow, but at least I have like I know I just got through the hardest part of my segment. So yeah, so then day 5, that's where you came in. You met me at the top of the pass, and that was just an extremely, I don't know, just like mental shift and physical shift for me too, because I texted you the day before and I was like, I don't know how much we're gonna be running tomorrow, dude. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I was like, we might be walking a marathon tomorrow. Like, and you're just like, you're just like, dude, doesn't matter. Like, that's like, it doesn't matter to me. Like, sounds good. And we meet at the top. It's freezing, dude. That was a fun day because it was 15 degrees up there when we started.
Yeah, it felt so good. Honestly, it was crisp.
Dude, pull up 15 degrees. We pull up. I'm like, there's my buddy. And dude's just like has a shirt off and
I think I had shorts and sandals.
yeah,
on,
short sandals, no shirt. And I was like, I don't know. That was just like the beginning. I was just like, this is great. And then I actually think we ran just about that entire day. And I was like telling you the whole time, I was like, dude, I did not think I was gonna be running at all today. So we moved through that whole day. And that was just like, that day was just a blast in general. I think I was so excited. The fact that I was like moving, I was like, this is a huge win because it was like fun to finally, and also the piece of like running with somebody like the whole day was like a big, I don't know, change in my mentality because I'd been running by myself for so long. Like like bits and pieces would kind of run with me, and then that one big piece on the second day. But like I knew you were with me like the next 2 days and like from start to finish, you know what I mean? So like that was just like really big for me. And just an overall fun day, like going down the pass, ended up being a beautiful day. It got pretty hot.
Yeah, it was like the low was 15, the high was like 75.
Yeah.
That's a crazy
By the end of it,
temperature change.
Yeah. I started with a ski mask on.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, because it was so cold to like breathe in. I was like,
I should have gotten a picture with you in all the clothes, and I've got no shorts.
Yeah.
I've got no shirt on. It would have been hilarious.
Yeah. We we crushed a Red Bull in Georgetown.
Oh yeah, that was funny.
And that was like nothing. I would have done nothing like that the first like 3 days. Because like I was like locked into like, no, like, you know, I'm just like in the zone. By day 5, I'm like, we see like a Red Bull truck and I was like, let's stop over here at this gas station. I'm down. I want to crush a Red Bull right now. You know, it's just like everything just kind of changes after, you know, you cross that you know, amount, because it's just like a ridiculous amount of mileage. And it's just like, I think I kind of felt that like shift from like marathon runner to like ultra marathon runner.
You felt it felt like your attitude was easy. It wasn't like, you do have to like grind through it at that point too. That hasn't gone, but you felt a little more light. Or it seemed like you were light.
For sure.
Rather than like you were just in the worst place ever.
Yeah, which I was the day before. So I don't know. It was just like a heck of a journey. And like that was just I don't know. This whole thing was just like, I learned so much. And like it was probably like, you know, it's hard to compare to other things, but like that was like the hardest thing I've had to do like consecutively, you know. There's just like a toll and like emotions involved, and it was like a week span. So, you know, it wasn't like I'm just like, it's like the day, it's like a day thing, and like you're just trying to power through and like wrestle through these like lows or whatever. It's a week span, you know, like, so it was like there was like a lot to like kind of battle through, and like learning how to like take it day by day, and learning how to like accept where I am like hindered, and to like accept where like my body's like prospering, and like having to like figure that out and like use those things to my advantage and not dwell on what my body can't do at that moment. So there was like a lot of like, I think, learning for me there too. And then
just accepting where you are.
Yeah, just accepting where I am, and like, okay, how do we get through today with where I'm at today? And that was like a cool realization and like conversation we had too, because the whole thing was in honor of my dad. And he has multiple sclerosis. So it was cool connecting, I think, those things with the relay, because at the end of the day, like, that's what it's like kind of all about. So
Yeah, I didn't write you your note, but like the one takeaway that I felt like I wanted you to have was that the phrase that we've kind of used, or like you advertised throughout this whole campaign, was what's written on your dad's fingers, which is, for those that don't know, is hold fast. So that's kind of what Levi stuck to. And I felt like the motivation I wanted to bring to you is, I'm kind of glad that I got to you at, for lack of better words, like a dark spot was, that's something, I feel like, and you obviously experience, like your dad lives that every day of his life. But like that was the opportunity for you to like earn that phrase.
Yeah.
And I felt like you did.
Yeah, that's huge. That's cool to hear too. Like, you're right. That's like earning that phrase. Yeah. That was like the mantra going into it,
Yeah.
And then so we move on to day 6, and David Lee joins us. And
Whoa.
yeah.
So we need to introduce David. So
Okay.
Because it's a series of events. David sends me a text at, I think he gets into Denver at like 4 p.m. I had just run with Levi, and I had run a good bit that week, so I was kind of tired and I wanted to go to bed. But David gets in at 4 p.m. and sends us. Did he send us a text at like 7? Said, "Hey, I'm gonna go do some stuff and grab a haircut. I should be there at like 10 p.m." Right?
Yeah.
So David gets in super late. I think he wakes up at like 3 a.m. Can't go to sleep. Eats everything in the entire like hotel lobby, like everything. He had like 3 burritos, 4 Little Debbies. Like he ate everything. And then we just look at our phones, and he just sends Levi text on day 6 that says "wakey wakey eggs and bakey."
Oh my gosh, yeah. It was like, and also to go rewind just a little bit, like the barbecue in Idaho Springs was like really fun and like nice to do after.
Oh, afterwards?
After the
Yeah.
5th day, like me, you, T getting some barbecue, and then like going back to your hotel and like jacuzzing and stuff like that. That was really nice too. I started having more fun definitely that day.
That's a good way to put it. It seemed like you were enjoying yourself a little bit more.
Yeah. But yeah, so then so I don't yeah, so day 6 rolls around, right? And I'm just like, I'm cooked. Like my body's like hanging on by a thread. I'm just like drained mentally, and just like, all right, here we go, day 6, and there's still gonna be like a day 7. So it's like, it's not like this is the last day or anything, and like whatever. So David joins us, and yeah, I wake up 5 a.m. to that text. Wakey, wakey, eggs and bakey.
And by the way, he was just, while he sent that, he was just destroying food in the hotel lobby.
So I'm like, okay, so that really set the tone. I think just like on where David was coming in that day, because I was like, wakey, wakey, egg. I'm like, I read that, and I just like almost ignored it. Like I read it, and I was like, I I am not, I'm not on that level. You know what I mean?
The thing is he hadn't sent anything else. That was the only thing he said, like for 12 hours.
Yeah, exactly.
It was just, didn't say he arrived, didn't say anything, just said wakey wakey eggs and bacon.
Yeah, I'm just like, this, like, in a nutshell, like, it's like, okay, this guy has no idea where I'm at right now, like what I've been through this whole week, and like all this stuff. And then so we get started, and I think T ran the first few miles with us that day too, so it was cool. We kind of had a little squad, 4 of us running together to start that day. And then me, you, and David got through the rest of the day. That was another, and that day was 25 miles.
I thought it ended up being 26 to make it, because I thought they had miscalculated, and it was to help you.
I believe it did.
10.
Yes. Yeah, you're right.
So maybe you're.
It was 26
because 2.5 miles.
Because at the end of that day, it was supposed to be like the last like 3 or whatever, or last 3 miles, and then Heidi was like,
we added one.
Heidi was like, you have 4 miles from here.
It's only a mile, but I remember we were just counting down.
Yeah,
we were like 5 miles, so we got 4 miles run, 1 mile walk, And then we get to the last stop. She's like, well,
Yeah.
you got 1 more mile. And I don't know why, but we're like,
Yeah. Because, and like, that was like a longer day for me too, because it was like, all right, this is the last like big push. And also like the conservative approach with like recovery at crew stops and stuff was like working less and less for me. So I don't know. Yeah, it would have been a much longer day had I been by myself. But at the end of it, it was like it was a fun time, and like looking back at it, like afterward is like, dude, you ran 52 miles with me. Like,
that was fun.
yeah, like just having the, and like we had a lot of good conversations, a lot of good views, and just like I don't know.
That was a pretty cool thing that I don't want to like overlook is one, I didn't know that those roads existed.
Same.
But two, we drive that all the time. We
Mhm.
drive past everything we ran. And like to actually realize how long that is was pretty cool, but also to see where you drive all the time next on the side of the highway.
Yeah.
Was just I don't know, it felt cool. Like
Yeah.
it was just like a different kind of perspective for
Yeah.
you.
I think it's cool too because like we take I-70 for like so much stuff. And so like now we're always gonna have that. You know, like being like
Can't wait to piss Andy off. I've run that.
yeah, exactly. Also the day 6 was pretty hilly. A lot more hilly than expected.
Yeah. I don't feel like they needed to make it that way, but I felt like maybe to make
were going
the bike path harder and stuff, they just made it like this.
Yeah, I
Like
don't
a
know.
lot, you know?
Yeah, because or there was that one stretch where it kept like curving around and like you couldn't. It looked like the incline was gonna end and it just like wouldn't.
And then it would take a right and go straight up, and
Yeah.
a left and straight up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that there was a lot more hills expected that day. And anyways, we get through it. Good times, and then the home stretch on Friday was more of just like, all right, we're done. Like I just had to, still 10 miles, but like I was also like nothing compared to everything I've been doing for the past 6 days.
Did you walk a good bit of that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, as
Fried.
much recovery as I can like mix in with this day, like I want to. But yeah. Anyways, 10 miles, finish up, had a blast. There's probably like 20, 30 people there.
Yeah.
At the finish, which was really cool. And then we all went to a brewery after because we live in Denver. So the only way to do it, a family in town, all that, and my Achilles tendons are trashed. So now we're in the recovery process. And I'm just still like having a lot of reflection on the week and just like how incredible it was and just like everything I've gotten to like, I don't know, learn from it and just like whatever.
I'm gonna put you on the spot.
Sure.
What's like one thing if someone wants to do something like that you would tell them? Maybe it's like a tip, like, hey, maybe don't run as fast as you can the first day. Something like that would be a suggestion of mine. Because that's what you did. You're not laughing at all.
I'm sorry. I mean, sure, yeah. If you're running an ultra marathon, if you're running damn near 30 miles a day for 7 days, maybe take it as easy as you can on the first few days and try to finish stronger.
But you could also say set the first day record at the same time.
Set the tone.
Yeah, set the tone for the week.
Set the tone.
Make the back end of the week much harder for yourself. No, I was being serious.
Loveland Pass may have got the best of me, but Rabbit Ears Pass, I got the best of Rabbit Ears.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying right there.
Yeah.
But on a serious note, if you had to, give one piece of advice to people who wanted to do something like that, even if it was similar, I was going to say something like that. And then what do you think were like 1 to 3 kind of like main takeaways for yourself that you kind of just have, like you said, having that experience of being patient or taking it day by day, etc.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'll let you answer those.
Okay, so
a little bit.
The first question was like advice, right?
Yeah,
advice
or just like a general tip of kind of like based on what you experienced.
I would say like doing something like this, and I feel like there's not really much like that, but um I think just hmm I think my advice would be prepare as much as you can, but you know, be don't expect like things to go perfectly, and just try to train your mindset to a place where if you have to improvise, you're going to improvise. Um
So would that be kind of like
and
control the controllables?
control the controllables, and whatever, but at the end of the day, like whatever happens, like everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face, right?
Yeah.
Classic quote, for like when you're in a fight or whatever. So I don't know. I guess I would just say like you're gonna get a ton of life out of doing something like this, and just be ready to go to war, really, with yourself, and I think also the main thing would be like get people behind you, um, because like you're gonna need help and like support. So like when you go into these things, don't go in alone. Like if somebody reaches out and is like, "Hey, I want to like support or whatever or join or whatever," and like you're that's like something that you can cope with or whatever, like take it,
Uh,
because
I'm gonna steal Nick Bear's phrase, but I
Mhm.
really like it. He always says, "If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together."
Yeah. Yeah, I think that sums it up. Um, and I don't think I would appreciate, because I've heard that before, but I don't think I've ever been able to appreciate it.
Mhm.
I think with running a marathon, like running marathon races, I don't have to worry. There's so many factors that I don't need to worry about other than like just the race, that 3 hours, this, and I was coming in, that's the unknown for me. That was the uncomfortable part, what I didn't know. And like that's why I'm able now to like just like learn so much and like appreciate quotes like that. Because I needed support, dude. Like I needed like everybody that like even just like gave me words of encouragement, like helped. Um because it was a long week. So um I don't know how, if so that would be my advice. I think like
I think it's good.
take help, take
Yeah.
support, and just be ready to go to war. Um, your other questions
It could
were
be
like
one, it could be two,
things that I
three,
learned,
just takeaways like that. I
takeaways.
think that maybe, uh, like I think what the one you said earlier was kind of along the lines of like what you experience along the lines of like your dad or like patience or something like that. That maybe
Hmm.
you weren't good at or didn't appreciate as much before, but you went through and had to acknowledge that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I think like at some point, I can, days in, I couldn't like just like rush through the whole thing or like be like, okay, we got 4 more days or whatever. It truly got to the point where I was like I kind of mentioned earlier, how do I get through today? And let's start there. Where am I at? Where am I hurting? Where am I okay? Can't control the weather. Can't control any injury that I might have right now. Okay. I can control this next 5 miles on my pace, right? I can control how fast I go, slow it down, listen to my body. Um, Pit at cruise stops. Let's be conservative. Let's be smart. Let's take our time um, to manage myself for the next 5 miles or whatever it may be. Um, what are the positives? I'm getting toward the end. However many miles I have left, are they downhill? Are they uphill? Um, how can I get through this uphill? How can I get down this downhill? Um, and it's just like breaking everything up into little pieces, especially like drawn out races or relays like this, like you really got to break it down to one thing at a time. So when I say like take it day by day, I also mean like just hill by hill, crew stop by crew stop, step by step, mile by mile. And like we connected that, with like my dad and his multiple sclerosis, and just like, he can't control what he can't do that, any given day. He can only control what he can do, right? He can control whatever he can physically. He can control his mindset, things like that. And so that was just like the perfect connection for me. And like just, yeah, I don't know. That was a huge takeaway. And like, I just think mental strength was like the biggest factor that came into this. It wasn't like, I don't know, like the physical stuff, like training and then like being injured and stuff like that. Like it was what it was. It was good when it was good. It sucked when it sucked. But like the mental battle of getting through an entire week was, I don't want to say the biggest challenge, but it was like the biggest factor, I think. Um, and I think with like ultra races and stuff like that, like it makes sense that like your mentality is what's going to get you through, because you got a long way to go, like regardless of like where you're at. Even like the last day, I still had 10 miles, still freaking 10 miles, especially after I've been doing this for like 6 days. So I just think like the complex and like special gift that we all have with like mental strength, like this was such a big opportunity to get to know myself like more. Where am I at mentally? Like how strong am I mentally? And like looking back at it now, like where could I have done better physically? Sure, but like where do I need to strengthen up like mentality wise too? And I think that's the beauty out of like just doing hard things, is like you're going to get to know yourself so much more, and then you're going to be able to reevaluate afterward and just figure out like how to get stronger and how to capitalize on the areas you are already like strong in.
That's actually a really good point. I feel like a lot of people don't acknowledge, they always acknowledge the things that they're not good at, or, maybe they talk bad about themselves, etc. But it is really important to acknowledge the things you are really good at.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because those things carried most of the weight, And so like these are natural strengths or whatever. So like, or maybe things that you built up. So like capitalize on them, keep building on them. Don't neglect them, acknowledge them, Like I had a weird like, and like, cause they filmed the whole documentary on it. So like there was like 3 cameras in my face from different angles. And like, we talked for like an hour straight. And even like here on the podcast, like maybe it's just like, there's like a humble side of me, that doesn't like saying like, oh, like these are my strengths. And I think a lot of people like may like struggle with like verbalizing those things, like, oh, I'm strong in this area. Um, but like we shouldn't, we should be, obviously like there's a difference between being cocky or whatever, but like saying like, and after the fact, like I feel comfortable and I feel like I've earned, because I'm being honest with myself and what I think of myself. I think one of my biggest strengths that help, like that comes into play physically, is like my mental strength.
Well, I don't think, I don't think you should shy away from saying that, because the second you start talking about that, and then you go through the race, even if you didn't go through the race, that you kind of build on that, or you show that you are what you like doing, setting the standard. What, that movie Coach Carter?
Yeah.
You remember where that guy ends up giving his reflection like later on? He was like, the second that I can't remember, I'd have to look the quote up, but he basically says like, when you allow your light to shine, it like, without you knowing, it gives others the permission to do the same. So the second that you kind of say, this is who I am,
Yeah.
and now you've put some you put some words or you put some like action into that,
Yeah.
you're automatically giving someone else unknowingly the permission to kind of say like, I like that. I like that. That's who I want to like, not that's who I want to be, but like I can show that as well.
Yeah.
And so then you have this like chain reaction to all these people that have just set such a high standard. So it's kind of a good thing. It's not necessarily, there is a difference between being cocky and saying like setting the standard.
And being able to like back it up, that's what I'm saying. Like I trust myself when I like say, like I truly do feel like we've all been told things. I hope like I've been told like that I'm a strong, whatever. I'm a strong athlete growing up, in high school and all this stuff. I have a strong, whatever. But like, I don't know, dude. Like stuff like this takes you into deep waters. You get to know yourself, and like, and now I'm just like, yeah, like, I I do have a lot of mental strength, and like, and so like going forward, next time I do something like this or something else, like I should go into it and like be like, oh yeah, I have a strong like mental game. And I'm gonna use that to win.
You know what I thought of? Like just for some reason it just kicked in the back of my mind is when we first started doing Incline Mondays. And for those of you that don't know, me and Levi used to go to this big ass mountain in
no, it's Golden. Yeah.
And we would just run up and down. It was like 0.75 or something up.
It was more. It was almost a mile.
Kind of brutal. And I think for the first like 3 times we went, I wasn't huge. I didn't get a ton of volume of running in yet, and so I couldn't run all the way up. Meanwhile, Levi just up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. But I swear this sticks out in the top of my mind. I was like 3/4 of the way up. It was probably my first chance of actually, when you get through that middle part and it's just like this. And you're kind of like, if I get through that, I could probably grind through the rest.
Yeah.
And I was past that and I was on that steady. And I remember you said all the pain goes away at the top. And there's a shitload of pain between that point and the top. But as soon as I got to the top, I finished it, right? I don't know why, but that just clicked. It clicked. And every single time I start the incline, I swear after that day, I was like, I can run this whole thing. I can get through it every single time. And I think since then, there's probably not a day that I've walked that incline.
That's sick.
But I'm just saying it's because you kind of set that standard for yourself. And mentally, you're like, I can do this. I've done it before. It's a little harder when it's like that brand new. But as soon as you cross that threshold, you've kind of set that like mental standard for yourself. So like you're saying, you go into it next time and you know that like this is something you've been through. It's not new. Other people have been through it.
Yeah.
So it's possible.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause like there's that, once you get to that certain level of fitness, then it all becomes a mental game, going up the incline like that or whatever. Like you have the fitness to do it, but like it may be harder mentally some days than the other, but the top's there.
Yeah.
And once you get to the top, then you just cruise down. And like, it's crazy because you have all these things going in your head when you're like running up like that last stretch. You're just like, you feel like, you don't feel like you're going to die, but like you feel like this, like you kind of start to forget like what I'm like, what's the benefit of me like getting up this like last stretch and like
legs are turning over. There's no lights on, just legs are turning over.
Nobody's making you do it, and like whatever. But then like as soon as you get to the top, then that clicks and you're like, oh, I'm so glad I did that. And then you start to remember who you are and you start to remember why you're doing what you're doing. And you're more like grateful because you're like, oh, okay, like now you have that satisfaction of like, I just made it all the way to the top when everything about me was telling me not to, all the way to my mind. And I think those days, dude, they've done a lot for us, like than we probably understand that Incline Monday, because not obviously like fitness wise, like Incline Monday was huge, but I think there's a lot more like mental grit that we got out of Incline Monday than we realized. Cause it was just like, at some point it was just like, some days are just like super hot and it's just like, we're just we're out here trying to make light of it, like Incline Monday, yeah. But all you're doing, you're just running straight up a freaking hill and then coming down and doing it again. And it's like not a short sprint; it's a freaking mile long uphill.
I've kind of decided that's a really, because how many people? I'm not a savage. I would like to say I'm kind of trying to turn myself into a savage. I don't think I'm there yet. Like Goggins is a savage.
Yeah,
there are savages out there.
yeah.
Like I think there's at points even Goggins says he's not a savage. So I think I'm on the long train there. I'm trying to turn myself into one.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if I ever just wanted to like test someone, if someone says they're a savage, put them on a fucking incline.
Yeah.
That's a really good way to figure out how much grit someone's got in them.
Yeah. Yeah. And like you pull from that later on. You know what I mean? Like in one of Goggins' books, like he talks about the cookie jar. I've heard of that?
It's been a minute, but I'm trying to recollect what it's.
So
go ahead.
Say what you want about David Goggins. Like I know he's like super becoming very like, I don't know.
Some people see him as unlikable, but you have to be a certain person. You have to be in a certain light. I feel like to understand him.
Like regardless of like the trends that like are coming up and like people are just kind of like making light of like it or whatever of him, like yeah, he is an absolute savage and like you can't question that. And like anyways, in one of his books, he talks about the cookie jar and like it's basically like I don't know, it's been years since I read the book, but basically like something that you've done that was like super hard in your life, but you do it like it could be a race or whatever, something else. And like you take that and that's another cookie in your cookie jar so that for next time when you're doing something that takes a ton of mental strength and like whatever, you reach into the cookie jar and you have all those cookies in the cookie jar. So it's almost like the hay is in the barn kind of thing, but like I think kind of different. It's more of a mentality thing.
Courtney DeWalter's version of that, I don't know if you know, she calls it the pain cave.
Yeah.
And I like how she's like, your pain cave is, say it's like this big, right?
Right.
It's like this small 5x5. You do something else. You take a little axe and you're just kind of carving out that pain cave.
Yeah, that's a cool visual.
And at some point, your pain cave is massive because you've done so much stuff to increase that threshold of yours.
Mm-hmm.
But it's interesting to see how different people like think about it. But no matter the situation, the more you put yourself in those difficult situations that are just kind of hard to.
Yeah.
There's no other way to feel that way you're feeling unless you do something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, yeah. So like Incline Mondays, like that's like a cookie in the cookie jar, you know?
I get so much shit for that. That's one of the things where it kind of set off my, like, you know how we've talked in the past about like, when people support you,
mm-hmm.
like truly support you.
Oh yeah.
Hold on to those people because those are the people that really care about you. And then you've got, sorry, I was going to say cunt, but you've got the people.
You did.
Yeah. But you've got the people who, like you mentioned this on your run, you've got the people who you're like, there's some people out there who, I mean, just to your face, just kind of treat you like trash, but on the low. And then there's other people out there who just talk about you and they're treating you like trash and they're out there. But I got so much trash for Incline Monday, but the benefits I got out of doing Incline Monday, like, were amazing.
That's crazy, dude, because like
I'd have a random people be like, all that Incline Monday.
Yeah, exactly.
Incline Monday.
Yeah. So like where that comes from is like you're doing something that other people don't like to see because like they don't want to see that. Like that's why they're giving you crap for it because that makes them not feel as good about themselves because like, that's not a freaking Incline Monday is not a beauty contest. Like it's like you're going out there and you are training your body. You're doing things that take discipline that like somebody sitting on the couch is like not going to want to look at because they don't want to do that because so they want like you to be on their level. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, that's where that attitude comes from.
A huge mental part of that. I don't know if you remember it, but it's like a 35-minute drive from here to the mountain.
Mm-hmm.
And that whole drive, you just know for the next like hour and a half, 2 hours that all you're going to do is run up and down and up and down.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a really underlooked part of that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the drive there. You're like, here we go.
That's another thing too, like what you just mentioned. I kind of forgot about this, but like at that point where I felt like I was getting very close to my breaking point, during the relay, I felt like I was starting to question myself. Am I going to be able to finish this? Am I going to injure myself seriously bad to where like I physically will not be able to finish this? All these things are going through my head, like fears. Um, I was starting to be like, am I strong enough to do this? You know? And like I and then at some point, like I started to think like, because I got so much support from people, so many people reaching out, and like I'm so grateful for it. And like those people really helped me move forward in the midst of that. But also in the back of my mind, I was like, I know that there's some people out there, and like I'm not saying there's anybody like directly that's coming to my head, because there isn't. Um, this is just like, maybe I've created this, maybe it's not true, maybe it is.
It's true.
But
It's always
there's
true.
some people that have been following that have probably been, this is what I'm thinking to myself. There's probably some people that have been following along this whole week, and if I didn't finish this thing, would probably bring them a little joy. Would probably bring them a little bit of happiness to see me fail or to not complete what I've set out to complete. And like even just thinking of that without like having anybody in my mind, I was like, nah, they're not getting that satisfaction.
I know. The guy who started First Form, he's
Mhm.
a savage, dude. This guy's huge. He always says I'm thankful for those people.
Mhm.
And he always like I don't think it's necessarily a good thing to use negative motivation all the time,
Sure.
because you want to have you want to have your own reasons for doing things.
Right.
Um but I like when he talks about it. He said people have such a bad light on negative motivation. He goes, "It's motivation."
Yeah.
He was like, "Use it." Is one of my favorite phrases by him. He's like, "Take it, ball it up, and cram it down their fucking throats." Because they're not going to give them the satisfaction of you not following through with something or you failing at something just because they don't want you to.
Mhm.
And he's like, I'm thankful for those people. He's like, I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for those people.
Right.
So I don't think you should use it all the time. I
Sure.
actually got told one time, was like, where's your head go when you're lifting? Because I used to squat a lot and deadlift a lot, and I was like, oh, not good places.
Uh-huh.
Because you have to get in that like headspace.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes you just got to use it.
Dude, I think I was like mentally, I think I was digging deep. And I think that's how I got there, because the amount of support I was getting, and like the people that are like reaching out to me that are like, you know, like we love you, we support you, like no matter what. You know, I had people telling me like, eat like, not directly, but I had a handful of people telling me like, and in like different ways, that like basically paraphrasing, but like basically people telling me like, if I don't finish, it's okay.
It's okay.
If I don't, you know what I mean?
That's the absolute worst.
Like it, like I've already accomplished a lot in life. I'm not like, this is like the perspective I'm saying. Like, I've already accomplished a lot in life. I've already like inspired a lot. I've already done so much with the miles that I've ran and things like that. And like the and it was more of like affirmation that like the people that love you are gonna love you no matter what. You know, like which like you need, and like we're not always gonna, like we're gonna fail a lot too. But that doesn't, like, yes, you don't want to let people down. But the people that love you, you're not gonna let them down, right? Like regardless, they're still gonna love you so much. And like, so you can't dig from that too much. So then your mind has to go to the other side.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, where I went like, okay, the people that love me are gonna love me, but what about, and like it's okay if I don't finish, really. Like truthfully, it would be okay if I didn't finish. Like you would still be my friend. We'd still be on this podcast. Like nothing would change. But so then you dig deeper and you think of the people that are like, okay, well, it might bring some joy to some people to see me fail. And that like flips the script. You know what I mean? Because now it's like,
You also on that side, because I know some people say it, like we talked about this, some people say it from a loving, like they don't want you to hurt yourself,
yes,
right?
for sure.
But they're not thinking, they're seeing one version of you.
For sure.
There's a version of you that you know, that you say you set the standard, that you hold, that if I was gonna say, we talked about that. Like at one point, you said it to me, and I was like, "Shut the fuck up! Like we're not."
That was not in the like. Yeah, no, you did. You like you kind of laughed. You were like, or like you smirked. I remember
because I was having
because
my stabilizers were having problems.
that was just nothing that was in like that was not an option. You know, like
yeah,
like not finishing is not an option.
yeah.
But yeah, dude, I don't know. It's cool. Just like you get so much life out of this kind of stuff, you know, all of it, you know, from the training to whatever. I think back of like when I was in South Dakota and that track was just like snowed over and I shoveled the entire lane 400 meters so that I can get a 6-mile run in. That's a cookie in the cookie jar.
Cookie in the cookie jar. Well, honestly, congratulations.
Thank you.
Truthfully, I feel like this is the kind of stuff that I have tried to go out of my way to create my own life and be a part of. So I'm really happy that I could be a part of this. I'm really happy for you that you got through it, but also I appreciate you holding the standard high. And I'm really proud of you for everything you did for MS Run the US and how much money you raised.
Thanks.
So
means a lot.
Good job. You definitely deserve it.
Well, thanks. I'm happy you were a part of it. And yeah, it's just memories are gonna last a lifetime. But dude, I'm ready for more.
We're gonna build that fucking cookie jar.
I'm ready for more, dude. We're gonna have so many cookies.
We're gonna have a pantry.
Another thing too, dude. Really quick. I have a coworker, and this is what it's all about too. I have a coworker who he's done. I think he's done a half Ironman before, like years ago and stuff like that. And
is this the 50 mile guy?
No,
that was at church.
Yes.
Okay.
This is just a coworker that I really enjoy talking to and stuff, and we'd like talking about training and stuff like that too, because he's kind of leans more toward like a triathlete kind of guy. And he goes, you know, just kind of goes in and out of like training for stuff and like whatever. Just he just likes it. And when I went back to work this week, he was like, what did he say? He was just like, he congratulated me. He was like, that's really cool, like really big accomplishment. Like, it's awesome for you. Congrats. And then he was like, we were talking about my Achilles tendons and getting healthy and stuff like that. And he was like, so what's next? He's like, Leadville, right? And I was like, oh, my buddy's going to run Leadville or whatever. And he's like, yeah, you're going to pace him or whatever. So like, that just told me that he watched that 7-minute YouTube clip, right? The one where like the interview part of me.
You mentioned Leadville in that? I watched it, but I don't recall Leadville.
Yeah. We can go back over it. But I mentioned Leadville in it. And he was like, yeah, that's the next. He's like, that's, and then he was like, that's cool that you guys like do stuff like that together. Like that, like he ran with you and like, yeah, and like you're gonna run with him in Leadville and stuff like that. He's like, and he just mentioned like that's really cool that like we do that. And so anyways, at the end of the shift when I was leaving, I was saying later, because I consider him a friend. I say bad on my coworkers, but I don't know why I mentioned that. But I was leaving and I was just saying later, and then he was like, oh hey, he's like, really quick, he's like, when do you usually like go on runs? And I was like, he's like mornings or evenings. And I was like, it depends. I was like, I'm kind of all over the place. Like, you know, weekdays, usually it's in the evening, but on the weekends, I'll go running in the mornings. And he's like, okay. He's like, I'm going to hit you up. He's like, because, I'm going to hit you up because, I don't know. He's like, I don't have any friends that like do that kind of stuff. He's like, so I like, you know, when I train and stuff like that, I do it on my own. He's like, cause all my friends, they just kind of like, you know, like to drink and party and stuff like that. So I'm going to hit you up. It'd be cool to like run together and stuff like that. And I was like, dude, once I get healthy, definitely like hit me up.
Yeah.
And then I left or whatever, but I was like, dude, that guy just watched the YouTube clip and like, He probably, was inspired by the whole thing, the whole organization and my part of it. But he like he noticed the relationship that we have, like the friendship. Like it's not a normal friendship, right? Because like not or to most people it's not normal as far as like us doing stuff like this together, doing hard things, running together, training together, stuff like that, talking about it. Um and then so like afterward he's like, like I want to hit you up, like let's go run because I don't have any friends that are like that.
Yeah.
And I just feel like that's super cool that like somebody on the outside could see that and like kind of can draw inspiration from that and like will reach out and be like, oh, I want like a friend like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that's huge,
It's hard to find.
dude. Yeah,
It's hard to find.
yeah. So
Sick.
yeah, I think this is awesome. All right, should we wrap it up?
Yeah.
All right.
That's another episode of Bad Company Podcast out. Hold fast, baby. Hold fast. See you guys later.
Bye. Bye.
I might put something out on social media that says we'll put it out tomorrow instead, and I'll just do this. Okay. I feel like that'd be better. Yeah. I need to pee. See the picture. Actually, we can take one. No, we don't need